Guys, let me first off say I'm sorry. Normally I'd shut off the air conditioner and the other air conditioner, but see, what is it outside? It is 97 degrees outside, and I'm a fat kid and I don't like to sweat. So we're just gonna have to deal with the hum in the background. I apologize for it. Eric, your 32 pill dominator slash skullcracker kind of slash destroyer, what I believe this is a dominator box, is completed. Now, as you've seen in the pictures on the intro, this thing was, well, first off, brown on the inside from dirt. And the first thing I did is I took it out of this beautiful cabinet. It's got this beautiful stainless steel cabinet that this amp is built into. And it punched all these weird holes, and they only had a couple pieces of like 8 gauge going in to feed it. And everything was corroded, and nothing was, like they smashed these down with a hammer. So when I came back and redid the power distribution, which we'll cover, I hydraulically crimped and I gave you a brand new end, with brand new wires. The first thing I did is I tested this box. And when I tested it, I put 100 watts in it and I was getting 50 coming back. So it's like 50 to 1. So for every 2 watts going in, 1 was coming back out of this box. And it did not want to stand up. And as I was testing it, I was praying to God I would burn up my Connex here on the bench. Because that's like almost totally intolerable input tune. But I pulled it apart. And the other thing I observed was, 1, the board was smashed all the way over here against the edge of the cabinet. 2, it was all the way up against the back of the cabinet. Now, we get down here and look, that's our exhaust port for our airflow out of this box, right? Now on the lid, he's got a nice little blower that sits up here. And it pressurizes this cabinet with a couple hundred CFM airflow. If you look, this heat sink's wide, and that exhaust port's only about that big. So if the deck is sitting all the way up against that exhaust port, the only thing that's getting airflow is this inner row of 4 transistors. Well, this is a 32 pill. So that means this outside row of 2 and this outside row of 2, we're not getting any cooling, Eric. Bad. So what I did is I built a little shelf off the back end of the deck. I slid the deck forward. And I built this all copper shield, and this goes all the way around the heatsink on both sides, so that the air's only got one choice. It goes down, wraps around the whole heatsink, and it allows it to collimate at the back of the cabinet and use all the heatsink to move airflow. So that way we can leak some air down the side transistors and everything can get even cooling, right? That would be a good thing. Okay. Next thing is this relay was mounted in the center of the deck, and as you've seen in the pictures, this combiner was just sitting there bouncing and shorting against the deck and burnt a hole in the deck. Well, when I took this out, I pulled all the power wires off, pulled most of the coaxes off, pulled the relay out, pulled the combiner out, and then went to washing it. It took me a day between acetone and re-etching agent to get the copper board to be clean. Not to be green, not to be brown, but to be clean, so we'd have a clean surface area to work with. So we went to put it back together. Built the deck. I centered the board in the cabinet and moved the relay to the back wall. A little bit more stable for you. Now here's all the parts I replaced, Eric. No joke. Now, one half of this box had these little splitters present. Okay, let's take a note how many turns those are on there. And then another third of the box had these splitters and combiners. But if you start looking, they don't all have the same number of turns. This one's got 3. This one's got 4. I found some that have 5. This one's got 7. Well, when I got involved in the last Skullcracker 32 pill to ever be built, which is roughly off this same design, when I was lucky enough to be involved with that project, I learned a lot. And so what I went through and I did, instead of trying to pull these out and rewrap these little bitches, I just took them all out and replaced them with the actual number of turns that they were originally designed to have in here, which is 7. And then I added 50 puffs of capacitance on all the input combiners to help even out the impedance bump. And then there is 110 puff worth of capacitance on the output secondary combiners to help even out the impedance bump. So we got that all put together for you. You ended up having one dead pill, come to find out, that didn't show up in the initial test. When I got it all put back in the cabinet and started load testing it, this transistor had gone down. And it'll stand out from all the others because it's the only red dot that's in here. The rest of these are non-red dots. So, but they're all different lots. There's 4 different lots of transistors in here, but that doesn't take away from the value of the amp. So when I got this puppy mounted, and we redid the power distribution system, that way this set of 4 pills has got its own wire. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. There was jumpers running back and forth. There was pieces of Romex in here to keep all the joints tied together. And the reason Eric sent this thing to me initially was because it couldn't do over 2,000 watts on 20 volts. Well, we fixed that. We're going to run it on about 15.1 volts, and we're going to see about 1,800 bird out of it, just barely loafing it along. Here's your new combiner mount. I took this combiner completely apart, cleaned all the Teflon wire, twisted it, and wrapped it the way it's designed to be. This is the way it was initially designed to be when Dominator was building these. Now, the output tuning capacitance, that's a little bit of me. I added a little bit of induction to it and then added the capacitance, and it laid down flat on the output tune. The input tune is now down for every 100 watts in, it's getting a half a watt of reflect back, which is phenomenally good. That means all the wattage going in, that means all the wattage coming out. And instead of using wire, I went ahead and I used real coax. Put a little distribution bar down the side of the cabinet for the power wire. Went hydraulically punched through this stainless steel, the nut, so you'd actually have, and there was no grommets over here, Eric. Your power wires are just rubbing against the cabinet. That's not acceptable. I can't live with that. But we got her all done. She's in top shape now. The tin does fit on here perfectly clear. Clear's perfect. So you're going to be good to go. It's like we were talking on the phone. The only thing we got to do to key it is this pin here, short it to ground, and the amp will key. The amp's always on. You said the blower, which you did not ship, was separately turned on and off, so I don't need to worry about remoting that. Let's see. Oh yeah, before this leaves, I'm going to put little body fillers in these holes in the end cabinets so you don't have the train whistle effect going on anymore. And I think you're done. So let's get on with the testing. So today we're going to use the Striker 955. We're going to use my Dave Made 8-pill that's sitting here. Use this as a driver coming from the 955. We're going to use a 1,000 watt slug in 5X on the right, 5,000 watt slug in average in the middle, 5 watt slug in reverse back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load, and of course a 5 watt slug between the radio and the amplifier. We're going to run on 15 volts, and we're going to use my 600 amp supply that's down here underneath the bench. It's a switcher, and that's it. I think, yeah. Oh yeah, other than that, and this is these are hydraulically crimped and soldered, bro, so this will never come apart on you, unlike these that are just smashed down with a hammer. So yeah. Oh yeah, as I was going through, they had these little disc capacitors in there for tuning, which is acceptable if they're all the same value, which they weren't. As I was going through and I was checking out the capacitors and their placements, these all had the same numeric value on the outside, but they, no more. The values were all over the place. So now let's get to it. We're going to fire down with the Striker. Amplifier is keyed, of course. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. So we're seeing about 1,300 peak out of this. Hello, audio. And about 250 average out of it. Here's your input tune. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Rock solid, right? That is what we're looking for. So the input tune is good, your output tune is good. Now, go ahead and I got the 8-bill here. Oh yeah. Now remember, because there's so much coax inside this box, when you go to hook up to the antenna, instead of having your standard 12 feet, you're going to have about 9 feet that goes up to the puck. or you're going to be able to run 18 feet. Remember that. It's going to come in handy. That's the difference between these Dominators and the Skullcrackers versus like Dave made X4's Fat Boy, is that their output tuning network is directly up against the relay, and there's not this extra 50 ohm bump of coax between the combiner network and the output jack of the connector. Okay? So if you go and you take like a Dave made setup or an X-Force or Fat Boy setup, and you try to drop a Dominator Skullcracker in it, these boxes won't do the same amount of watts as these because of the coax and the system that's around it to make this box work. Same thing goes for this. You take and drop this into you create a system around this with 9-foot coax jumpers, and you're going to see the same amount of wattage that you would see out of that. You take this amp out, put it in the place of this system, and you're not going to see the same amount of wattage. It all has to do with the coax going to the antenna and your coax length. Those guys have been around for a while, will know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so with that being said, we are gonna audio. We still got our 1200. Now we're gonna just lightly loaf this in with an 8-pill, because an 8-pill actually is a little bit too much drive for a 32. This is a straight 8 coming from the Striker 955. Audio. So we're gonna hit this with about 1300, 1400 bird, about 500, 13 to 1400 bird peak, and about 500 average. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fire down on this. We're going to see about 16 and some change on bird average, and we're going to see about 4800 PEP. Because remember, we're not hitting this as hard as we can, and it's set up to run on volts. Eric, when you get this thing, it's going to take off. You're going to see probably about 3300, 3400 out of it, somewhere in that department, and it's going to run real solid for you. I can't take my power supply to the voltage that you're going to run at. Please, for the love of God, Mary and Jesus. 20 volts is real hard on a box. That's pretty commonly accepted. It's real hard on the parts. The way these things are set up with the amount of turns in the output transformers, it nerfs the transistor in a way. It holds back the amount of wattage that it can put out. So therefore it doesn't over supersaturate the transistor, and you can get more voltage on the device. Unfortunately, me, the way I look at it is I want to squeak every watt out of it as I can at 14 volts, and I don't want to run at 20. So I believe he's charging at 22 and he's running at like 18 or 19. This thing's going to run. We're seeing 1800 bird out of it on 14.5, 15 volts. We're seeing 4,900 to 5,000 peak out of it on 14.5 volts. And we're only hitting it with about 300 or 400 bird, about 1,200 peak coming out of the 8-pill. Eric, it's set up. This thing is going to run forever for you. I wish you luck. Like I said, you got an all new ground strap, new ground setup, new remote system, new power wire, board's clean, board's centered, moved back so you got airflow. All the combiners are right. Your input and output tune is correct. You got 393 coax on your output side instead of a piece of RG, 8X mini, I do believe they had going from here to here. And you're in top shape, amigo. Anyhow, gentlemen, I am insanely behind. These kind of projects, I figure in my head when I talk to people on the phone, I think they're only going to take a day or two. This one took me 4.5 days to do. But it's right when it leaves here. I am currently a year behind on builds, and my repairs, I am now like at 90 days. The repair number is going to go down. I'm going to start on a couple new build projects, but I've got to get repairs out of here. I physically run out of real estate to store them. And a lot of these projects are taking vastly more amounts of time than I want to put towards them, but they're not leaving here till they're right. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I don't get to be here without you, all of you guys. I don't. And for that, I say thanks. There's going to be more fun stuff coming. Eric, thank you, sir. I appreciate your patience on this. I know you've been waiting for me to touch this thing for about 3 months now. And it's done. Gentlemen, my name is BBI, and without a shadow of a doubt, I am the biggest mud duck in Idaho. Come check us out, www.bbiamps.com. Come find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Subscribe. Keep your digging device. I'll see you guys. Bye.